Hi everybody, and this is your co-host, Burbujita. Say hi, Burbujita. The video is about to start. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. There we go! Okay. Hi everybody, and today we have a special edition of Gustavo's World. Today we're going to be talking with Charlotte Libov. She's the author of this great book, and Charlotte is a journalist that specializes in health, and because we're in times that this is a great concern for all of us and our loved ones and even our not loved ones. So we should educate ourselves a little bit more and hear from the experts what we shall do about it. But before this, I would like to ask Charlotte, how do you choose to, to become a journalist?
Oh, I wanted to be a journalist since I was like 13 years old, and I have no idea why, because there wasn't anybody in my family that were ever journalists.
Right.
I've just always been compelled to find information for people, and you have to understand that when I became a journalist, we didn't have the internet. It wasn't that easy to find information, although now it's even more difficult because you don't know what's medical, what's accurate and what isn't.
Right.
It's a lot easier to find information than when I was starting out.
So why inspire you to write Fight Back, Beat the Coronavirus?
Well, first of all, we are absolutely living in an unprecedented historical time. Before we realized what was going to happen here, I was very riveted at what was happening in Hong Kong, mostly because I was like horrified. What they were doing with, making people get temperature checks and quarantining and things like that with a very heavy hand, it seemed like, totally horrifying. But to me, as I was reading it in terms of our personal liberties, also, I had a very personal reason. So I'm kind of the baby of my family, and my aunt's older sister was left basically paralyzed because of the Spanish flu. And I grew up with that. But that basically colored my whole life, because my mother's life was never her own. She was always taking care of her sister.
Wow.
So there was a very, personal connection too that made me want to write about it.
Where did COVID-19 come from?
Okay, well, as we know, coronavirus is the virus, and COVID-19 is the disease that's caused by the virus.
Okay, wait, let me get this straight. So coronavirus is
the name of the virus.
The virus, but there's many coronavirus, right?
Right, you're absolutely right.
Yes.
In fact, if you look at Burbujita's medical records, you'll probably see that she has a coronavirus vaccine.
Okay, so this virus in particular has a name, like this coronavirus?
It's SARS-2.
Oh, that one,
That one, yeah. And basically because it's a type of SARS, this coronavirus is a type of virus that also causes SARS.
Okay.
Which was an epidemic prior to the coronavirus.
Coronavirus is a virus, and the COVID-19 is the sickness that the coronavirus causes.
Right.
Okay, so, I learned something new.
And the reason it's 19, Bert, it was discovered in December of 2019.
Okay.
So that gives you the 19.
So a couple more days, it would have been COVID-20.
It would have been COVID-20.
Okay, got it.
it would seem more current.
Okay.
Obviously changed our lives in ways that
we
never expected.
Yes, for now.
Well, I subscribe to the scientific explanation, which is that viruses can jump from animals to people with kind of a middleman, from a bat to a human, or a pangolin, which is another type of animal.
I'm laughing because right now we're seeing a bat flying around us. Why COVID-19 is so dangerous?
Well, there's a lot of good reasons for that. And the virus has a kind of a spiked head.
Like, oh yes, the spiked head.
And
yes.
it uses that to get into your cells. What happens when you become infected with COVID-19, it's usually, we think, through the nasal passages. And your nasal passages are lined with a certain substance called ACE. It's like an ACE substance. And you have it actually in different parts of your body. But once the COVID-19 virus gets in, and with that spike, it can kind of latch on. Another RNA virus is HIV.
Okay.
It's also an RNA virus. And that virus takes over your mechanism, your cellular mechanism, and starts basically churning out other replicas of itself. It affects the immune system, and the immune system, to try to fight it off, sets in a huge inflammatory response. And that inflammatory response is very damaging. Mm-hmm. And it can basically set off inflammation in the heart. If you've heard some of the athletes that have stopped playing the game because they said they had this heart inflammation, say that it's not a virus to fool around with. So my point is that even now, when we are 6-7 months into this virus, we are still learning new things and new ways that it can affect our bodies. So that's one of the things that makes it dangerous. Scientists will tell you that they have never seen a virus with such a wide age infection rate. Scientists have also never seen a virus which has such a long incubation period. The flu virus, you were infected by it, you start getting symptoms a couple of days later. And you know almost immediately that you're sick. That a couple of days and it's obvious, right?
Right.
It can be up to 14 days with
for
the
this
coronavirus. But some people think more like 5 to 7 days. It's a very slow virus. It builds up in your body so slowly that it might not even show up on a test for 3, 4, 5, 6 days.
Why doesn't just getting tested protect you from COVID-19? And why do you need to do other things?
You could be tested and you could be negative. Well, first of all, there's different types of tests.
Like some tests are really bad, some tests are really good, some tests are like, don't even test on that because, I mean, how do you know which tests are which? And then, you know, I'm studying acting now. For example, in one of the TV stations where all my people go to, they get tested every 3 days. I don't know with which test, but they get the little thing on the nose every 3 days, and But what about if you left the recording studio and then you interacted with someone and then you have 2 days and then you to get tested? It's just crazy.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why testing isn't 100% a panacea. So there's the nasal swab tests, and those are the most accurate. But I want to point out overall to all the tests that I'm talking about, a test is a moment in time. Test is a moment in time. It's at that moment you're not negative. You're negative at that moment. At that moment, but maybe I talk to someone like 5 minutes later and boom, like that result is also possible. I mean, so but testing is important, but it's not designed to be a protective shield. Right. Basically. So the nasal swab test is the most accurate, like maybe 98%. But then there are all these rapid antigen tests. And because these tests are not necessarily 100% accurate. Right. So, and they are not as accurate as the nasal swab tests, and they were never intended to be used that way. If you get a negative, it can give false negatives where it says you are negative, but you're not really. So why do you do that? So they were designed to be, because I guess it falls into the better than nothing. It gives you something necessary, but usually testing is most useful if you know you've been in contact with someone or you're experiencing symptoms that could be COVID. It's not really intended to give you a shield.
And none of this would be possible if it wasn't for the sponsorship of Gustavo Studio, where hair becomes in high art. Also, sultry eyelashes, where they bring out the goddess out of every woman. And South Beach Charity Angels, your local charity in South Beach.
The rapid antigen test is being used as well. It's being used here.
But that's just to see if you had the virus.
No, that's the trick.
Oh.
The antibody tests.
Oh, that's another one.
And the antigen tests are different.
Wait.
If you have the antigen test, to be 100% sure, and you test negative.
Right.
If you want to be 100% sure, that's supposed to be followed up with a nasal swab.
So, wow, I didn't know that. So we have the antigen, the antibodies, and the swab.
Well, we've discussed the swab and we've discussed the antigen, because those are the two tests to find if you've been infected.
So we haven't defined yet the third one, the antibody.
The antibody.
Okay.
When coronavirus first came along, you know, the idea, whenever you're infected by a virus, the virus is a foreign body, and your immune cells recognize it, and it builds up antibodies, which later on, they're in your blood, and your immune system sees them, and it revs up to fight these invader cells. And that's the basis of vaccines.
Okay.
So the antibody test, at first, it was hoped that if you had antibodies, you were then immune and you could go back to work. But coronavirus is trickier than that. You know, it's always a more complicated story. And it turns out that having antibodies, we don't really know what they mean yet. We don't know how strong a level you have to have
of antibodies, to be immune.
And we don't know how long that immunity lasts.
The question is, do masks really protect you?
They really do. Now, again, remember what I said, nothing is 100%.
Right.
So
it's better than not wearing one.
So when this is one of my first masks that I got.
I remember it.
Yeah. It's a simple face covering.
They say that those ones are inefficient, but the only ones that really work are the N95.
No, that's actually not true. The ones that they work because they may work the best, but this isn't an N95 respirator. This is like a KN95. This is not the ones they use. This is the ones that they use in hospitals, but they do not use them. They should not be using them to deal with coronavirus patients. This is the least effective, the way it is, which is like, you know, just a double covering, no filter, but it has still been proven to filter out some virus. This is more protective, like sort of like mask light, you know?
Right.
Now, getting into the more protective ones, this is the one that I wear to go to the grocery store.
Okay.
This is also, if you want to get a little fancier, this is one of my evening masks. It has a filter in it, gives you a little more, but not as, you know, this is considered, like now they're talking about if you're going to have a cloth mask, it should be 3 layers and ideally have a filter. What it should not have is a vent. There was a study where everybody said, oh, the gator ones aren't good. But when you looked closer at that study, they had only like studied one or something. So it's still, but you have to, if you're going to travel, if you're going to go on an airplane, you always have to check which masks the airplane requires. Now, a lot of people ask me now about shields versus masks.
We know.
If we really have a really good mask and we're going to be socially distanced, because remember, nothing replaces, I mean, I can't say this enough, nothing replaces everything.
Right.
Is testing. Masks and social distancing are still the 3 pillars. Unfortunately, we have found that many unlike in other countries like Asia or China or Canada, we are very deficient in contact tracing.
Okay.
A lot of our municipalities have fallen down on contact tracing in the United States. If you become infected, a lot of times it's up to you, and you should let people know. Like if you find out I was infected within 5 days of seeing you, it would come upon me to call you and say, "Gus, you better go get tested," you know? Okay, well, there have been what they call super spreader events.
Okay.
And some super spreader events have happened indoors and some have happened outdoors. Well, most of the ones we've heard about have happened indoors because what we're talking about. The one that you're referring to, which may have happened outside, is because there were hundreds of people packed together, and they were tested. And then after they were and after they were tested with the rapid antigen test, they were told, "Everybody, you're okay, take off your masks." Now, there's still an open question. This outdoor event also had an indoor reception associated with it. So whether it turns out this will be at the outdoor event or whether they'll figure it out was the indoor, it might be completely impossible to figure out because the same people were pretty much at both.
Yes.
So, but that would probably be the first event I've seen that has been an outside super spreader event.
Okay, so what is the best way to fight back against?
Well, we don't have a vaccine yet, and I know we'll talk about that. Nobody has a proven one. Nobody's published. Nobody's said to scientific journal, "Here are the results."
Yes. Okay.
You know, so that's what you usually, what you look for.
Right.
So, so Russia is doing vaccinations apparently, and China.
They have it because they have a lot of Russian clients, and they have medicine that if you have, I don't know I cannot tell you it's a hydro whatever, I don't know, but they do have a medicine that you don't need a prescription, and you will purchase it, and it will cut the symptoms.
All of the scientists would like to see whatever they have published. I'll tell you the problem with a lot of this, even the stuff that's coming out now that you see in scientific journals.
Yes.
Like I said, when I write about heart disease and statin drugs, and doctors do a study, it takes a year for that study to be published. It's called peer-reviewed. And kind of the gold standard is being published in a peer-reviewed journal. What that means is that you publish the results and then it goes through expert review, and the experts look for some reason why it might be wrong, or it might be better than you think. And a lot of studies, even though they're published and even though they're published by doctors and researchers, do not make that.
I got it.
The coronavirus has been around a matter of months, and it was generally decided that to have things go through that process, we don't have the time. So that's being skipped ahead. So anything you hear, unless you've got a study backing it up that at least can be looked at. But one phrase that I hear among my science writer colleagues all the time is, be careful. We are doing science by press release. Unfortunately, in the United States, the decision was made, for example, to withdraw ourselves from a worldwide consortium of vaccine development. And some people are very upset about that because that was all involved with sharing information that, in our race to be first will be cut out from. But there's no scientific valid way to say that something works right now in Russia or something that works in China until they publish results.
Got it. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. That's clicking on the little bell. Comment all you want. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like.
Don't forget to subscribe to grow the community.
And also, don't forget to follow our social media. And if you want to go ahead and share this video in all your platforms, share the love. Till next time!
Bye.